Hello and welcome to the OG Creatives Podcast, episode 6. My name is Will and I'm here with my very good friend Miki. Say hello, Miki.
Yo, hello.
We've been away for a little bit. We've had a little bit of a break, but we are back in full force and with a very exciting episode, hopefully. So I am honoured to introduce my guest today. Some might call him the human lighthouse because he's a ray of sunshine in an otherwise turbulent world. If you like that, you can have that. He's always happy, always positive. I've no idea how he does it, but hopefully we can find out today. The one, the only, Gavin Strange. Hello.
Oh, wow, what an intro, mate. Thank you so much. That's very, very kind of you to say. I better live up to it now. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you for having me. I'm stoked to be here, so thanks very much.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Yeah, I mean, I've been following you for a while, and as I say, just especially like with what's going on at the moment, like you're always, it's just great. I've been coming and hanging out on your streams that you were doing weekly, so hopefully they kick off again when your new studio is done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's a dark world, isn't it, at the minute? And it always has been. And I just think, I want to sort of give out the vibes that I want to receive, if that kind of makes sense. I need happiness and positivity around me at all times. So I just kind of trying to do my bit to give back to the world and just be a smile.
Well, I think it's definitely loads of people seem to love it. So I just, if you don't mind, can you just open up with a little bit about what you do at the moment? What you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So hello everybody. My name is Gavin Strange. So by day I'm a director and a designer at a creative studio called Aardman. And Aardman's a studio that's been going for the last 50 years and it's based right here in beautiful Bristol in the southwest. And it's known for creating animation, predominantly things that people might have seen, Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run and Shaun the Sheep and lovely things like that. But it does all sorts of things from immersive interactions to video games to commercials to ads to all sorts of different stuff. And so I've been there for the last 13 years as I joined as a senior designer and I'm now a director and a designer. So I jump between making moving image and then also doing classic graphic design, visual design, illustration, iconography, that kind of stuff. But when I'm not doing that and when I'm not being a dad and a husband and everything else, I go under the alias of Jam Factory, where I basically do all the stuff that no one asked me to do. And I use it as a playground to learn new skills, to try things that I'm just really intrigued by. And yeah, that's kind of what keeps me busy. And it's I've now got 2 kids, so I'm in a new era, a new chapter of my life to try and maintain that positivity and that balance and to try and be as creatively prolific as I want to be, as my drive is, balanced with, I want to be the best dad I can be and the best husband and the best life human. So that's me.
I'm hoping we get into that a little bit because I know, I've got a son myself and I know that's something I'm really interested in is like how to do that balance, but we'll get into that. But I wanted to ask essentially how you got into being creative and what you're doing, but I wondered if you can remember like the first time that you did a creative project, the first time you were creative and kind of what that spark was that made you love it in the first place.
The first creative project, wow. I've got a strange recollection of when I was at school being really intrigued by the boxes on cereal packets. And I'm really not quite sure why. I mean, I guess back in the 80s, all the different cereals were full of sugar and were trying to grab your attention. And so there's just something that sort of stuck out to me visually as this everyday object that was eye-catching and existed to sort of draw you in. So I've got a sort of a memory of being interested in that and sort of wanting to know more about where that came from. And I guess that sort of started an interest into what would be called graphic design. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I've just got this sort of connection with video games, particularly when I was younger. We didn't have any games consoles because they were stupidly expensive and my family, couldn't afford them, so we didn't have them. But that just meant that they existed as this mythical object of desire, really. And so, growing up, I was born in 82, so growing up in the 90s, surrounded by the wars of Sega and Nintendo, and then Sony coming into it. It was this ripe age of again, it was what all the Sony, Sega, Nintendo were doing, especially in their adverts in the magazines and TV ads, was sort of creating this world to entice you in. I guess I'm a bit of a magpie, I reckon, and so like with the cereal boxing, it just really sort of spoke to me in these visuals, particularly then of characters, really, wasn't it? It was platform characters or fighting game characters. So yeah, I've kind of got these connections with these sort of being intrigued by the visual world. But it really wasn't until I did a 2-year BTEC National Diploma in Graphic Design in Leicester, where I'm originally from, that was like the beginnings of actually moving towards.
Yeah. So do you remember? Did you start with drawing? Like, because I was born in '82 as well, and I remember just exactly what you're saying. Those computer game magazines were just all about those big characters, because obviously the graphics weren't up to snuff back then, and that was like some of the first 3D things you ever saw as well. I remember with 3D characters before you had 3D games. But I mean, did you used to cut them out and sketch them and all that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just trying to consistently draw Sonic from memory, and just trying to the box art, and like you say, actually, the actual pixel sprites, even though I adore pixel art, was so different to what was the hero images, what we know now as marketing hero shots and all of that stuff, and things like Virtua Fighter, seeing 3D characters was like, oh my god. It was crazy, and sort of when you go on holiday in the UK and you'd swing by arcades, and that was just a glimpse into this high-tech, futuristic world of what computers could be, because obviously gaming consoles were relatively primitive in comparison. So yeah, it was. I think the fact that I didn't have this stuff just made it all the more desirable. So yeah, my only access was I'd save up my pocket money, buy Computers and Video Games magazine, and so I would just sort of live through these pages, and sometimes you get posters, and that was just the best to have these pictures. And so yeah, I would draw them and would doodle them, and all the different characters and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely there was a huge emulation of everything that I was seeing around me. I think that was really formative back then, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, tell me, did you get a console eventually?
Yeah, so I've got a real vivid memory of one Christmas. I really don't know how old I was, but it was at the time where the Mega Drive was absolutely huge, and I ripped open this box, this box on Christmas Day, and I saw the Sega logo. I was like, oh my god, my brain started imploding, and I ripped the full thing open, and it said Sega Master System. And I've got this memory of sort of instant disappointment, because I wanted the Mega Drive. I really wanted the Mega Drive. That's just, as a kid, you don't really understand. You don't understand what I now know is the Mega Drive would have been so incredibly expensive that my parents simply wouldn't and couldn't buy that. But I remember it faded so quickly in a second, because I then sort of carried on tearing it open, and Sonic was on the box art, and it was the Master System 2 where you had Sonic built in. And then I just opened it and played it, and was absolutely in love with it. And it's really funny that it got this memory of, thank God I wasn't a spoiled brat and didn't say anything. But I wanted the Mega Drive. Yeah. So we did sort of get one, and that was just sort of satisfied that itch. But that was really it until we got. I remember Amigas were huge as well. My friend had an Amiga with every cracked game under the sun. Just had floppy disk after floppy disk. Yeah,
the big boxes, rows and rows.
Yeah, really sketchy writing on the disc of what it was. And I was like, I really love an Amiga. But my mum and dad bought me an Acorn. Did you ever hear of those things?
Yeah. We had
Acorns.
Had those at school, I think.
Yeah, they're more educational, weren't they? They weren't the same. But again, to my parents, they would have been a much cheaper option. And it's like, well, he's talking about a computer that begins with A. And we can't afford the one he keeps banging on about. So, and again, rightly so, as a parent, I totally understand it. It's like, you can't just have everything that you want. That's not how the world works. And again, I remember this sort of instant, brattish internal thing of, but wanted. But then as soon as you stopped playing with it, it was great, and you sort of found a way to hack around it in a sense and sort of make your own fun and be creative. And so I had that, and then basically when I was 16, I think I saved up all my money because I had a part-time job and bought a second-hand PlayStation from a mate. And looking back, I'm not quite sure how legit that was, because it was really cheap. It was really cheap, and it was like a mate's uncle. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but again, I just handed over my money because it was like my own console, and that was it. Then that became this obsession, and it's funny that I don't, we make video games at Aardman. It's really nice to be close to that now, but I think because it's not my profession strictly, it's just skirts on the edge of this sort of real. There's always this draw. I'm really inspired by games, even though that's not my, that's not the full sort of world that I'm in. So yeah, it's funny that it's all stuck around now. I've got every console under the sun, and I love it because I go, I'm a grown up. I can buy whatever I want.
I just love collecting. I've got my PlayStation up there, N64. I just love, just the whole feel of it, and so many memories with that stuff and the tangible aspect of it. And,
can I just say before I just have a memory of you talking about PlayStations and cracked Amiga games. Made me think of the cracking playing pirate PlayStation games where it had the disc thing stayed open, and then you had to get the inside of a biro to stay on the bit that held it open, otherwise it would think a disc popped out, and so you had to get the inside of the biro, and it would be like some MacGyver operation where where you'd start the disc, the official disc, and then you'd swap it for the dodgy disc, and the game would load. Do you remember that? I don't know if you ever did that.
No, I totally remember that. Yeah, and or rinsing demo discs as well, because you're like, well, I can't afford a game because they're so expensive, so I will play a demo disc to death. But I kind of missed that craziness of, because obviously there wouldn't have been any internet. How would we, that stuff? Your mate would have to tell you whose mate told you whose mate told you.
It was all word of mouth. Yeah, exactly. And some magazines, I remember them having to print cheat codes and certain things, but other than that, it was all just passed around. It was this
I think a lot of my loves now, especially love for film and stuff, my brother used to come home with these VHS tapes with double bill, 2 movies on it, and they were way above. I should not have been watching that, and I'd sneak in and put them in and fast forward to the second one. It's just so good. And with the PlayStation as well, they were, I shouldn't really, this is confession time, but they were incredibly easy to chip. And I remember one of my first sort of forays into electronics was opening one of those up and putting a little chip in. And I used to work in Blockbuster Video as well, so you can imagine because I used to rent games back then as well.
Is that a knock on your door, Will? I can hear.
Yeah, personal use, but it's good memories.
For research purposes. That's what
exactly.
Research. I was writing an article.
But so you were saying you're doing a graphic design course, right? And then we should probably carry on from there. So then I know you got a job working above a skate shop.
Yeah.
Was that straight after that?
No, prior to that, I got a job as a junior designer just when I'd finished my college course, because I didn't want to go to university, and I just wanted to get into the industry. But it really was as thought out as it was, as you are when you're 17, 18. It was okay. I don't want to do the university thing, so I should do the other thing. Then there was not really much clarity.
So what was the reason behind not wanting to go to university?
Put simply, I don't drink, and I don't really party, and I genuinely thought that's all university was. And I just I don't remember it being even that much of a complex decision. Again, back then, you just sort of you get presented with a bit of information, and your brain's like, there wasn't much nuance there. It was, well, I probably don't want to do that, so I won't do it. So it really just was sort of what shall I do next? There was no plan. But a design job would just that sounds wicked though. I'd love to do it. And basically, a graphic design firm in Leicester came round to our college and was looking for students who weren't going to university to perhaps have some sort of internship or connection with them. And after 2 weeks work experience, I ended up sort of landing a job as their new junior. It was a really small studio. There was maybe I don't know, eight people perhaps, but for me, man, I don't think I'd turned 18 by that point. It was just, no way, I've got a job. I get paid. I get paid. I think I got paid 7,700 quid a year. And back then it was like, oh, I'm rich. Guys, I'm rich. I don't know if you know, I can buy PlayStation games. I just was, and I still am. It still actually blows my mind that someone bets on you enough that they're like, I need this person to come to work every day and have an idea, and not only have that idea, execute that idea within a time frame, but also it's not binary, it's not black or white. That idea just has to fit. It's not, can you count 100 things in a day, and if you hit 100 you've done your job right. It blew my mind then, and 20 years later it still blows my mind now, especially as a 17-year-old who I used to wear too much hair gel and had an even squeakier voice than I do now, and was even more clueless than I am now. So for someone to go, we'll pay him, that was just like, it blew my mind. But that was a real switch for me, I think. I think that was really, because it was the trust. It was the fact that total strangers trusted me to show up, to listen, to learn, and to deliver, was like, wow, thank you.
Like, I can't really, because for me, like, that would have been such a courageous move. Like, I know you're saying that, I just didn't want to go to university, so I did that. But like, for me, university was like almost the easy way out. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just a continuation of what you know, and like the idea of like the idea of me going, I'm going to go into a company and like work now at 17 was just like alien to me. But
I think it's just blinkers, isn't it? It's just, you're so. It's almost like the stuff that those feelings, those fears don't really get to you. You just sort of bumble along, and you can be these huge fears and obstacles just sort of directly in your path, and you don't really look at them. You just sort of just bumble on. I mean, it's also just what you remember, isn't it? And so this is 20 years ago now, but I've not really got any sort of. I was lying awake at night, really worrying and antagonising myself over it. It just was a series of decisions that led from one. I would love to say it was planned, and I would love to say no, because what did turn out was that after my friends who did finish university, who did graphic design or visual arts at university, I was 3 years into a career. That's again, for being young, that was a good head start. I had 3 years experience at age 21.
Because that's the thing. I think if you're not going to uni, and I mean, I didn't learn anything. So it was a great experience, and I met Miki, and I met good people, and we did work in our own time. But that's it. If you are like focused and you go straight into the work, you've got that like leg up, essentially, that 3-year head start where everyone. I did, because I think it was hard though to actually learn stuff back then on your own as well. It wasn't the same with the tutorials and stuff. So we chipped away at a bit, but it wasn't. We didn't get that kind of breadth of knowledge like that you
it's like you would have been building the culture as well of yourselves, wouldn't you? And sort of like that swapping of, I love this, or I've seen this on VHS, you check this out. Like, actually that swapping of ideas and that sort of that co-shared excitement of sort of amping each other up to get into the industry that you're interested in is really important as well, really. So it's just it's sort of where you're at that point in your life, isn't it? And that's what's also quite nice when I talk to students as well. Sometimes people ask them, what's your plan? What's your plan? So it's okay to not have a plan, just whatever gets you next. And that's just, I remember the terrifying thing with GCSEs. It was really spelt out to you. If you don't do well, you have screwed your life forever. It's just not true. It's what gets you to the next step. It might get you to your A-levels. Your A-levels might get you to uni. Your uni might get you a job. It might get you a placement. You might totally swerve in a different direction. But I do remember, I think, the careers advisors and the education system in the 80s and 90s was very geared to GCSEs. If you don't have anything or a path, forget it, mate. You'll never do anything. And that feels unfair. Yeah,
it seems less and less relevant, I think, these days now. I think when you were doing it, you were maybe a bit more of a trendsetter, but nowadays it's like, it's more and more common, I think, and more, I would say, less reason for students to go to university and get into massive debt and spend all this money and spend that time. Purely because, I mean, one of the things is, you mentioned it earlier, Will, is that we've got now YouTube and courses, online courses, and it's the internet, the swathe of information that's available, that you can learn all of these things, get highly skilled, more so than you can by, you know, some professor who may or not know the latest, you know, technologies and the latest techniques and all these things. And so it feels like today, I don't know. Of course, there still is a reason to go. Like you said, there's that kind of little bit of that time and that camaraderie and that kind of exchanging of ideas on that progress and that path where you guess you build a little bit of yourself, build a bit of who you're going to be. But,
yeah, exactly.
But my argument is in a sense of, I believe that from what happened afterwards, I finished university, but it was essentially who I knew. You know, who got me jobs. It was Will actually got me a lot of work, to be honest, and started me on freelance and a lot of motion graphics. But other people that I also met at that time, we all got into different industries slightly, onto television, onto marketing, into various other things. Some were into film. So
well, we jumped straight to the end. Like right after uni, we tried to form a company, and like the whole crashed and burned with that because basically you realise no one wants to pay you to do fun music videos and stuff, and so you're doing a music video for like £300, and there's like 5 of you on the project.
I was brilliant, and we were all directors as well of the company.
Yeah.
I love that. I really love that ambition of just because you. And that's what happens when you're that age. Again, not that you can't have that spontaneity and that, but you're just driven by it. Like, I want to do that, and so you just do, and it's wonderful. And and you look back now and you're like, what?
So with those early projects, like, did you get straight into great projects, or did you have to sort of churn away at some stuff that wasn't that exciting, or?
Oh, I remember everything. Everything was exciting to me. Just honestly, still that sort of that trust and that encouragement to. Oh, police are after you. That's it, Will. They heard. They heard, mate. Oh no.
It's the PlayStation police coming.
Mate, I've bought so many. Anyway, don't get into that. I've bought so many games. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Forgot. Oh yeah. No, I was so stoked and so excited to be there that everything was exciting. And we were working on like a website for a blinds company in Leicester, and we did a huge project for Transco Gas. And it like, you know, now you might be snobby and think, oh well, that's not that interesting. But for me, again, the trust thing and to be a working creative blew my mind. And also, I think that is 99.9% of design, of creative. It ain't a Nike gig, and it ain't a music video. And I was the same. It's like, I want to make cool skateboard videos, and I want to direct music videos, and that's awesome to have those dreams. But I think the realistic commercial creativity has to be balanced with, but 99% of the time you'll be working on things you don't deem, you know, exciting, but the world needs that, and that's just a responsibility that you have to make peace with it. I think I'm incredibly fortunate that I ended up in a job where a lot of projects are very exciting, but that was never the goal, that was never the plan, and it would never happen to people like me. I took a long time to develop my skill set and to be good. I literally had to learn on the job. That's why those people, I felt took such a risk on me when I was a kid, and they developed me. It was their confidence and their sort of encouragement that let me grow my own confidence. But no, I was stoked. So I made an interactive CD for Transco Gas. And I was like, yeah, man, this is amazing. And I was stoked. But I got to do a little bit of animation on it. I learned Flash and did a little animated CD-ROM thing.
Was that like
also,
Director back then or something for doing CDs?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
So, you know, to me, that was huge. And it's really, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that the Nike stuff, all of that, the huge things was just never even in my orbit. It was, I am stoked to make stuff for someone, and you trust me to come to work every day and do it. So I was more than happy with that. But then that jumps and spills into, I sort of developed Jam Factory as a place to do all the stuff that no one asked me to do. So I would use that as an avenue and a playground. So I was quite happy having that as my release, because I just thought, well, that I'm not waiting for Nike to come knocking. I'll just make my own funny, stupid T-shirts and skateboards and stuff.
So I wanted to ask you that is, like, I know you've said that you kind of battle a bit with, like, you always want to get better. And, like, do you think that it's kind of this question of whether you're, like, born with talent? Like, is anyone born with talent? Or do you think that you have to just, like, work it? Are you someone who has to... Because I feel personally like I'm someone who has to work it. Like, I've not been born with anything. Like, it's a graft. And I'm wondering if, you feel the same way about that.
I feel exactly the same way. Yeah. And I've always known that, really. I never excelled in any particular subject of anything at school, in hobbies, in anything. I have to work really hard to get a base level. Nothing comes easy. I get really frustrated really quickly, mainly because I flipping love it. Whether it's a hobby, whether it's drumming or skateboarding or music, but also just everything I do and have done for a career. I really, really love it, and I want to be good. I think for myself, I just want to emulate the people that I love and look up to. And that's why that plays into the sort of stuff of, again, back then, I was just so stoked to do anything, because not a lot was expected of me, because I just was very mediocre. So it just took time to grow and develop those skills and gain that confidence. I think some people are naturally born with talent, and I hate those people. No, I don't. I love those people. I'm incredibly jealous. But I do think, again, I think that's incredibly rare. I think that's super rare. And I think, the 99.9% of people working in those sort of creative roles, that it isn't the big giant jobs, are those people that also have to work hard at it. And I don't know, I felt like as soon as I accepted that and realised, okay, the only way I am going to get better then is do more stuff and do it over and over again and try and grow and try and get better. And so the Jam Factory, passion projects, doing stuff at night was really hugely instrumental in that. It was, learning the stuff that I would learn at the day, because I transitioned. The day job I had transitioned into more sort of, it was called new media design back in the 90s and 2000s. So doing digital web design stuff, with a tinge of graphic design. And then in my own time, I would, do graphic design, illustration, photography, filmmaking, and learn skills that way. So I'm definitely of the ilk of you, not born with it, just have to hopefully try and develop. And when I get super frustrated and have creative roadblock, which I do very frequently, it's like, man, well, I have a bit of a strop and get frustrated, and then just go, well, the only way is to power through, isn't it? To try and make some stuff. But that's really difficult. It's dead easy to say it. It's more difficult to power through. But you just got to, I think.
It's all kind of been opened up with the lockdown and NFTs. I know you got into NFTs a bit. It kind of made me go, well, hang about, because you can make anything. It made me just stop and go, like what am I? Who am I? What do I want to make? Do you know what I mean? And I'm really trying to now push. That's why I've found your stuff really inspiring, and we'll talk about your book in a minute, but just trying to be creative and trying to see what you can do.
No, thanks, mate. That's really kind of you to say. Yeah, I mean, I think again, it all goes back to a psychotherapist would just, I'm so easy to read. It's like, well, of course it all stems back to when you were a kid, you idiot. It's not that difficult, but that drive and that desire of that really, it comes down to what you can do. And of course, that's where the frustrations come into it. Of things like, well, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the financial freedom, I have to work 2 jobs. It's dead easy for us to sit here on our nice computers having a chat about it. And as 3 white men as well, we are inherently in a huge place of privilege. So that's not to, that's really to acknowledge that people have struggles in all sorts of different ways. But when it just kind of boils down to the absolute simplicity of, okay, well, what can I control? It's sort of like, well, all I can do is try and do my bit. And that might be different for everyone. I think for me, I take a long time to get anything done. I'm quite slow in having ideas. I'm quite slow in getting better. I just have to put in a lot of work. But some people might be able to just have a banging 20 minutes that for them just sort of lets them focus on something and lets them solve a problem in a different way. So that's the thing. The same methods don't apply to everyone, do they? It's just that, I guess it's that reiteration for everyone, that everyone's struggling, everyone's wants to do their best, and you've just got to find a method that works for you. And for some people, NFTs have done that because it's a different way to look at your work, or it might be moving to a different country and being thrown in at the deep end, and you're forced to do something different. So yeah, it works for everyone. But for me, the catalyst was my boss back then at this design agency saying, look, you need to get better. I think you should basically sort of create your own website to try out the stuff that I'm teaching you in the day, to just get to grips with it. And so I bought a domain name of jan-factory.com. And so that's where that came from. It was a request from him to get better. But
that's just like the best boss ever.
I was like, looking back now, he's just being very polite, saying, "Yeah, dude, you need to get better quick." But I was like,
two ways of looking at everything.
Wicked, man. Yeah, this sounds great. And he taught me all through it. He showed me how to buy domains, how to build websites. Because I coded all that stuff myself. That was a big part of my learning. I learned HTML and CSS, and then Flash, and Flash taught me animation. It taught me editing timelines, and then I got into skateboarding. So skateboarding taught me editing. And so all of this just sort of that raw, like, I'm just excited, I want to do it. I really want to try and hold on to that. As the older that I get, I don't want to lose that. I don't ever want to become jaded.
Oh, I know it was a Turtle Journey, so I've seen all the clips of you acting out every character. Like, that's full on effort. So, like, did you feel like you had a massive, like, was that all you? Did you have a massive input in that?
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky that when the relationship with Greenpeace started, they had their objectives that they wanted to tell a short film about their Protect the Oceans campaign, which is really about highlighting the threats that the ocean faces, and it was sort of all in support of it's called 30 by 30. They want to designate 30% of the world's oceans as ocean sanctuaries by the year 2030 to sustain life, and for obviously all the different reasons that oceans are important. So it was all in support of that. But what the brief meant was, it was open. They wanted us to pitch what could the idea be. What would you do that would get support and would get an emotional connection behind something. And so I got to, for me, my working title was Lost, because I kind of thought, well, why are we so disconnected about this really important thing that we see and hear the news all the time, but we're just so sort of numb to it, and particularly the animals that are hurt by this. So I kind of just wanted to think, well, what happens if you take that? If this happened to a human family, you would have a far more empathy, and you would look at it in a different way. So, and I really thought, what would be the most heart-wrenching thing for me, and it'd be losing a family member. And so it became this sort of like, I want to tell an emotional story, and I just, I think Sully was 2 at that point. So, being a dad, having a family was very, very on my mind. So, and I got very fortunate that my idea was chosen, and it got to develop it. So it was a real, that's why it's such an important thing, because not only was it a really important topic, and it was an incredibly important client, and it was using 2 techniques that I love, of stop frame and CG, and with incredible crew of Aardman, and the amazing voice cast. I got to work with Olivia Colman, David Harbour, Helen Mirren, Jim Carter, just these absolute legends. Wow. So like the whole thing was super important, but at the core of it, it was an idea I really believed in, because it was my idea, and so I just got to throw myself into it. So doing things like the labs that you saw, Will, which for people who haven't seen them, it's a reference for an animator to just what you're thinking, ideas of yours for performance. So you essentially act out how you want it to be along with the dialogue. But because a lot of our film was shot from the point of view of a turtle filming it on her phone, which makes sense in the context of the film, there are 5 characters on screen most of the time. And so I had to pretend to be a little toddler, a teenager, a mum and a dad, and at times a grandma and a granddad. And so I'm playing all these different parts and stuff like that. And it was all supposed to be naturalistic as well. Kind of, it was all scripted dialogue, but very much wanted that kind of almost Gogglebox / naturalistic, like the way families talk. Everyone talks over each other. No one waits their turn to speak.
Yeah.
So we wanted this, and it was a car. It was all a car journey, but it was a floating clamshell car. So yeah, that kind of long journey home, tried to do something that I think everyone knows. Stuck on the M5.
Yeah, I mean that. It did get me. Like it's short. It's 2 minutes, but you managed to get so much emotion in that 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you, mate. Yeah, it was a project of a lifetime in every single way, for sure.
So was that? I mean, did you find? Because I know you said you don't watch too many deeply emotional shows. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm really, really sensitive. I can't watch anything graphic in terms of violence or really anything heavy. I find it really, really, really affects me and really upsets me. And especially now with kids, I'm even worse. I mean, I was always like it anyway. I was always really scared of horror films and stuff as a kid. So I've always had that. And then I think as I've got older, I'm just like, why would I spend that time feeling those emotions?
I mean, I totally agree with you.
The world's a heavy place. I mean, I'm missing out on so much stuff, so much powerful stuff, but it will just really haunt me. Like a lot of stuff kind of haunt me, especially the more realistic stuff, like gritty dramas or gritty heavy stuff.
But that's the I mean, I totally agree. In terms of horror and stuff, for me, it's like, why would I want to feel like that scared and that tense for 2 hours? But I love an emotional roller coaster where it's really sad and then it's like massive highs, and for me that up and down is the great bit sometimes. I mean, do you because obviously you've just done the turtle journey. It is deeply emotional. Is that something you're going to have to open yourself up to a bit more in order to?
I think so. I mean, I do. Do you know what? I love a lot of. I'm a huge fan of animation, and I'm really into just how mature the animation world is, and huge blockbuster movies have some really big emotional beats and notes, and obviously Disney's famous in the old days for killing off a parent and emotion, but that's really developed and matured as the animation world has, and I'm a big fan of how you can get some really smart, complex, nuanced emotions in a really funny, wacky film, so I'm really intrigued by that. But when I was younger, when in my early 20s, I really liked a lot of. I watched Requiem for a Dream 3 times. You couldn't pay me to watch that again.
I mean, I was going to say that doesn't get much worse.
I'm so glad I watched it, but it is the most beautiful and brutal film I've ever seen. I couldn't get through it. I couldn't. It would break me.
Once was enough.
Oh no, it's so brutal.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I just I don't have a tolerance for those kinds of films anymore. I used to be able to just, even music, some of it, the most hardcore, heavy stuff. I was just when I was 18, 19, but give it to me, Right now I'm more into I went through a recent phase of watching Wes Anderson movies. I'm just
brilliant.
Just happy, nice, easy films. It's not even not even a dramatic camera move, nothing too sudden. Just the camera's just still. It's all nice and safe, and I'm into those movies right now.
But that's lovely. I'm exactly the same, and I really like stuff that's sort of escapism and just fun and joyous, and and I still like things that are kind of got a bit of drama, like the brilliant film Booksmart does that really wonderfully. It's really, it's got some really complex emotional things, but done through comedy and done through joy and done through a lens that's not harsh. I really like that stuff, and I think Turtle Journey, another reason why it was so important, because that's exactly the sort of stuff I would love to make. Hopefully it's a bit funny, hopefully it's touching, it's got those emotional notes on it, and I really felt like I was sort of really hit on something that made me really happy to make. But funnily enough, to your point, Miki, I love, and I'm getting more and more into heavier and heavier and darker music. So I cannot watch anything like that. But musically,
Right.
I love it. Sort of things like an all Nathkra. They've got a track it's called "Hold Your Children Close and Pray for the Oblivion." And it is brutal. It's the most brutal. I urge anyone to go and search it out. And it's like this sort of industrial noise core. Oh, I can't make it through the whole album. It's kind of like, if you imagine, sort of if you got a washing machine and sort of turned it on and then threw it down the stairs, it sort of sounds like that. And it's, I don't know, but I love that stuff. I think the reasons why is I can really see the passion and the emotion and hear it in the music. Mm-hmm. And I'm a real fan of anything really where people show that and hear that sort of energy, and it's got energy towards it. But I don't really know why. And as I've got older, you search out more subgenres, and you just like, oh, that's brutal. Yeah, I'll get into that.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't connect. For some reason, that stuff doesn't connect with me, and it makes me feel anything other than like, yeah, this is wicked, man. But then as soon as I see a visual, in any form, it's just like, oh, it really, really affects me. And isn't that weird? Yeah, never really thought about it.
I've gone soft both ways, I think. If my former self could see me now, they'd be like, what are you watching, man? Like, what happened to you, man? Used to be cool.
There's so much darkness in the world, though. There is so much darkness. You don't need to spend your time putting yourself through more.
I think so. When you're younger, I think you're going like on an exploration of like that. Let's just see it all. We want to see it all, And I think, but the thing is with making the kind of stuff that you make and you're enjoying making is there's more rewatchability, I find, with these kinds of things that are nicer, that are slower, that do take their time. They're just, if you just want to see them again. You're kind of like, if the characters are good, you're like happy to spend time with them. That's just like being with your buddies or something. It's like, it's a nice way to spend time. So I totally agree with you. I can see why you'd refrain from. But do you not watch any horror movies or anything dark or anything slightly like heavy going these days?
No horrors at all. I've never liked horror. So there's like the feeling of being scared. I absolutely hate it, and I just would not elect to watch. Honestly, nothing. Nothing. No, none of it. I just cannot. I cannot do it. I don't want to. My wife loves horror. She used to watch it a lot, and I can't do anything. But so that's like a blanket. Absolutely not. But there is things that. I think it's not dark, like anything malicious. I don't like anything sort of malicious or truly upsetting. But there's more things that have sort of had big emotional impact. Things like Arrival, is on the outset you look at it and it's a sci-fi film, but it's absolutely not. It's about loss and it's about grief, and and I don't want to spoil the ending if people haven't seen it, but what the film reveals itself to be about absolutely broke me again as a parent, but just someone emotionally in tune with it absolutely floored me, and it's beautiful. I think it's such a smart, clever, but not clever for its own sake, but just emotionally articulate film that was using sci-fi as a Trojan horse, really, to tell a deeply human story. So there's things like that sort of surprised me. I didn't actually know, again, if it would be a bit horror-esque because it was aliens. I didn't know, like, I'm a little bit sketched out, but the more you watch it, you're like, oh, okay, I understand what it is. So there's films like that sort of I can just about handle emotionally, but it's not like I'll pop that on again. Like you say, Miki, I'll watch anything Pixar, anything Marvel. Like I love Marvel.
Are you looking forward to, is it Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
Yeah, that I love Kung Fu films. I really love Kung Fu films. I went through a stage of watching all of the Ip Man films and then going off on a tangent with all sort of Eastern cinema, because I really, but there's things like that. Like I love martial arts, and I know I would in theory love The Raid and The Raid 2, but I know how brutal they are, and I wouldn't be able to handle it. Like seeing, because I think someone says, there's a scene where two girls have got two hammers and they have a fight, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Sounds excellent. I'm up for it.
It's like I would love to see it from a creative, like in a technical point of view. So I'm sort of fascinated in that sort of things. But yeah, the fact that Marvel is making this like big family entertainment, and I'm excited to get into it with my kids as well. Actually, this these wonderful big storytelling worlds with characters that are recognizable. Like my son. He's really starting to get into Spider-Man, and I'm not quite sure why. We've played a little bit of Miles Morales on the PlayStation together, but without any combat. So I don't like it. I don't want. He's too young to see. Like, the combat's quite quick and quite brutal. He doesn't need to see that. So what we do is we swing around the city together.
Yeah,
so actually, it's quite nice having like these safe characters who are kind, and especially Miles Morales. Actually, he's great. He's this young kid. He's proud of his neighborhood, and he's doing good. So actually, it's really nice seeing these characters, seeing that influence my kids and stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan of everything Pixar make and everything Disney Pixar make. All of the movies recently, like Onward, we absolutely loved. Luca was beautiful. We are just hyped when there's stuff like that.
It's so good
because it's escapism.
Like, obviously, yeah, when you have a son, you have to watch them like 100 times over. So, like, Moana, I can watch Moana like any time.
Moana's a masterpiece. I don't know why Moana isn't celebrated more, because not only is her story just brilliant, it's the look of it. There's a shot towards the end where Moana, the sea is parted, and that huge rock lava monster meets her, and the still is just it's incredible, but it's not talked about as much as things like Frozen or things like that, and it's just it's a masterpiece. I could watch Moana all the time.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there what's next for you? Basically, what plans have you got? Buy your book, definitely do Fly out now.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, everyone buy the book. That'd be great. That's my first plan. Buy my book. One of those ones where I can't say what I'm working on, of course, always a classic. But a few things that are really exciting, both sort of doing graphic designy stuff and also directing stuff as well, filmmaking stuff. So there's a couple of really exciting projects that have been much bigger, longer projects. So they're sort of getting close to completion, so that's really nice. But so that's my Aardman stuff, and there's some lovely things that are coming out that the studio's made. There's a really lovely new Christmas half an hour on Netflix called Robin that's coming out very soon this Christmas, which is going to be beautiful. I wasn't involved in that. I was just watching it from afar. So I'm really excited to sort of celebrate with the Aardman crew what they've made, so that's going to be ace. So that's from that side of things. And then in my own time, I'm just now kind of figuring out how I can be creative with two kids, because it's just changed the routine so much. I'm still our baby girl is 8 months old now, and so we sort of started understanding her sleep pattern, and she started teething, so things have changed again now, and actually we're really sort of disrupted. So I'm just trying to take a step back a bit and work out what I can do. I've got a fun little project that I'm going to do some generative stuff. I'm going to make like a series of generative characters, and which I'm really excited about. Just having fun with that. I want to carry on making more wonky music that I really enjoy making. Again, before we moved house, I had to pack up a lot of my kit, so I'm kind of really excited to get back into that. And I've just basically got to be kind to myself over the next few months and years, really, as the kids are growing up doing their thing. That the priority is them, and the priority is my partner, and us working stuff out together. It's not the same as when you just got no one else to think about but yourself, and that's great. And that's not that there's a better or worse scenario, but for me, I think right now I've come to terms with the fact that it is going to be different for a while, and my work rate is not going to be the same. I'm very fortunate to have a day job that I absolutely adore, but maybe my output in my own time won't be as frequent as I'd like it to be, and just make peace with that and try and learn and grow and get better in a different way, maybe.
Do you think you'll be back with the streams when the studio's done?
I'd love to, yeah. I really enjoyed doing the streams.
I only just started on them. I sort of discovered it, and It's a nice,
Yeah, it's
nice
a
place
shame.
to go
So,
at lunchtime. And
yeah, that was the point. I really wanted it to be, again, it started in the middle of the pandemic. And, I was missing doing talks. I used to do a lot, fortunate enough to do talks. And I really missed doing that. And what I love about Twitch actually is you get to sort of design, direct, animate, be the producer, be the director, be the host, be everything. I like that. You basically, it's like when you're a kid and you're like, I'm going to make my own TV show. It's that. It's that. And that's awesome. But it's also interactive. It's all the things you wish you did as a kid, but also it's happening in real time, and you can react and you can create something with other people. So yeah, I'd really like the new studio that I'm been building is sort of it's neon pink. I painted it fluorescent pink with fake garden wall on it. Purely as well as I wanted it to be, because I can do it. It was like I want it to look good on camera. So the plan is to very much bring the streams back and to sort of up the quality level. Just got to unpack all the stuff and get it all set back up and get it all installed. So hopefully, and maybe that could be a creative focus. I only do it once a week because of achievability. Really, a lot of streamers obviously do it every night or every day, but that's just never going to fit into my workflow. So it's never going to grow. I'm not going to be this big streamer at all. But I didn't do it to do that. It's purely a lovely connection, and it's been really nice that people have been dropping by and having creative conversations. Really, so if it can just be a positive respite from the horrors of the internet for an hour. Wicked. I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, I'd recommend anyone go to you've got a ton of stuff on YouTube that people can watch and have a look at, and jamfactory.com.
Yep. That's jam-factory.com. Little hyphen in the middle. Couldn't get the jamfactory.com. I've been trying for years, but no one will sell it to me. So flipping out.
Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. I hope someday we can do it again, but I really appreciate it.
We'll do it from the den. We'll do it from
There's so much stuff I want to ask you about. I want to ask you all about doing side projects, personal projects. I mean, I'm realising now is the importance of doing side projects. So definitely recommend that to anyone. Side projects for free as opposed to.
Yeah, just whatever makes you happy. Find that little nugget that makes your heart sing, and just do it when you can. Well, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. But I'd love to come back on and we can divulge into something. We'll just talk about more Marvel films and scary stuff. Let's do that.
Yeah, do a whole episode.
When we find out what it is that you've been working on, it's
exactly. That sounds good.
Nice one. Well, thank you so much.
Nice one. Cheers. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later.